Okay, so here's our science peer mentoring training for this fall. I want to start with an overview of the program. So just give you some brief history. This is the fourth year that we've had a mentoring program. This is the first year that we've extended it to all of the science majors, but it's the fourth year since we started it in biology. And it really came out of our ideas in the department for trying to build community. The number of biology students has really grown in the last maybe 7 or 8 years at Fisher, and actually now we see that same growth occurring in chemistry and biochemistry. And we were losing, the faculty who have been here for a while were feeling like we were losing some of the close-knit character of the departments. So the mentoring program is an attempt to try to continue to build sort of in an intentional way that close-knit character again in a larger department. So in the original program, the mentees, which is what I'm calling these new students, you're the mentors, the new students are the mentees. Those mentees were identified themselves as ones who were interested in having a mentor. We decided to move to giving every new student a mentor, and now of course we're extending that to chemistry and biochemistry, including as well as biology. And we're including transfers as in this list of new students. So every new student is assigned a mentor, and I want to thank you again for volunteering to be a mentor, because I think it's an important role in the department, in all of these departments now. So the intention of the program is not, again, you've seen this in a few places now, it's not to be a tutor. A mentor is really a buddy. You're a source of advice, support, and encouragement within these fields, and your role is to help bridge these connections, make these connections between upperclassmen and younger students or newer students. Let's go over some of the basic expectations. So the first thing I'd like you to do is contact the mentees that you've been assigned before Friday, September 12th. And part of this is just because I gave them the expectation that you would be contacting them by this time. But I think you probably have plenty of time to get this done. And in that contact, you want to introduce yourself, you want to maybe talk about your year, what courses you're taking right now, where you're from. I will actually, or I've attached to the email that this link was in, a copy of an email that kind of gives a sample of how to do an intro, or what you might want to include in an intro. So look at that and craft your own to send to your mentees. You should also provide those students with the contact information that you're the most comfortable with. So I suggest using your Fisher email as your primary contact, but if you want to give them your cell number, or if you have some social media that you would rather communicate through, just make it clear to them what your expectations are for how communications will happen. And ideally, I would like you to try to have a face-to-face meeting with the student. And really the reason for this is that you will recognize each other. So those of you who have been in the program before may remember that we had an ice cream social. That never quite worked out right, because not everyone would show up, so we wouldn't necessarily make these connections. So I would like you to try this on your own. And one way to do it is actually to get together with some friends that you know are mentors and make it more of a group meeting. And just get together for coffee, or for a meal, or even for a quick meeting before class or something like that. So I'd really like to encourage you to do that so that you can at least start to recognize each other in the halls. The other parts of the expectation, so that's going to happen right away, and I hope that you do actually give them a face to go with your name and have a communication related to that. The other expectations are that you will contact your mentees again a couple of times through the semester. And what I will do is send you reminder emails at these times that I think probably contact from you would be most helpful. So one is around the first exam, so after they've gotten those exams back and see how they've done. Another is around course registration, where they might have questions or concerns about what they should do the next semester. And then again at the end of the semester, just sort of I hope it went well. I'd love to I hope, just sort of give them encouragement about the end of the semester. And I will send you, as I have here, I will send you reminder emails and some sort of talking points that you might want to hit in these emails that you do with the students. And then I also ask you to attempt to maintain regular contact throughout the rest of the year. In no way I'm not policing any of this. So I hope that you do this, because I think it's part of the value of the program is to continue it on and to continue to develop these relationships. But where this relationship goes, how this develops, is really up to you and the mentees that you're interacting with. So I would say the majority of mentor-mentee relationships are very casual. Maybe more than half, there's very little communication between the mentor and the mentee. Two-way communications. The mentor is reaching out and the mentee is maybe not responding much. I would say the next most common response, or maybe about as common, would be a quick meeting. You kind of get to see each other, so that enough that you can say hey when you pass each other in the hallway. So just that sort of face recognition and support. They see another supportive face. And I would say it's really a small group that establish kind of a more lasting relationship. And again, it's up to you to define how that relationship works, whatever works for both partners. I'm not expecting anything in particular. Oh, one other thing I want to mention here is that this is not an expectation, but early on in the spring semester, I do host a alumni mentoring event. And the way we've done that in the past is that I've asked students who served as peer mentors, I've invited them to this alumni event, and then I've asked them to extend that invitation to their own mentees, so that we have kind of this triangle. So you have an alumnus who is out in the work world. We have you students who are more experienced in the department and are starting to think about your career steps, and then we have these young students who are just starting the process, and kind of get those groups together. So that, I think, is going to happen again in January, and I will keep you updated on that as the time comes. So those are the expectations, and then I want to just give you a little bit of advice about things that you can communicate with, and some of the questions that maybe come up with a mentor or with a mentee. So here's this first one. You want to try to, again, the idea is that we're trying to build community. So one way to build community is to be on campus and participate in the departmental functions and things that are related to our fields of interest. And I encourage you, of course, to attend whenever is possible. So encourage your mentees to get involved in the department and in the sciences. You might also want to talk with them about opportunities in the department, for example, research, internships, those kinds of things that might be available. You want to probably be just another voice that says that it's a good idea for students to get to know their faculty before issues arise. Many of you already know this. It's much easier to deal with negative things that happen in a class if you've already established a positive relationship with an instructor. And then I also just want to say, don't be afraid to say you don't know the answer to a question that they have. But what you should try to do is always give them a next step. Here's who you might ask to answer this question about whether your credits have transferred, or what are the requirements for getting into medical school, or whatever it is. You know the resources better than they do. The other piece of advice I have about working with these students is to just remember to be positive. So, I guess I'll just read this. Every class, professor, and experience has its positives and negatives. So being able to figure out what the positive is in any experience is a great life skill. Wisdom comes from failure. So that's something that's not easy for a young person to see right away, but that's part of what they're getting from some of these experiences that are challenging them. And I also want to point out that, one of the major stumbling blocks for students in the sciences is general chemistry. But general chemistry is hard everywhere. So the fact that our Gen Chem students exceed the national average on the ACS exam is very good evidence that the strategies used in general chemistry are effective for learning. So I think if you can just remind them that yes, this is different than how you did it in high school, it's different from some of your other classes, but we've got the data to indicate that it works, and there are lots of resources available to them to succeed in these classes. So a couple what ifs. What if the student doesn't respond to your contacts? This is going to happen to many of you. You can let me know if you want to try to establish a relationship with someone who's a little more proactive, and I will try to set you up if there are other students who are looking for a mentor who didn't get matched. But I think the reality is that not everybody's going to have much contact at all with their mentee, and that's okay. I mean, it's up to them, right, to decide which resources they're going to access here at Fisher. So don't stalk them. If they don't respond to you at all, I think 2 emails is probably enough. So that's fine. And again, if you have any questions or concerns about this, get in touch with me. So what do you do if the student's having academic problems? Certainly you can give advice. There's lots of resources, right? There's the chem tables, there's the faculty in the courses, there's their lab instructors, there's tutoring through Office of Academic Affairs. There's this new Smart Thinking program, which I don't know a ton about, but I know it's available through the portal. So there are resources that they can avail themselves of, and you can direct them to those resources. And if they might also get to a point during the semester or at the beginning of spring semester where they're feeling kind of unsure that this is the right academic path. And again, you're not their advisor. You don't have to tell them what they need to do. So you can provide your advice, tell them your stories about how you did in those first classes or the questions that you've had about your path if you've had any. But you also should refer them, if they're having these questions, to their advisors. Me, their freshman advisor, other faculty, whatever resources we have. The Career Services site is a good site to look at. Don't forget that we've got those of you who are juniors in biology know that there's a career fair, so that those are all options for them. And finally, if the student is having personal problems, really this is one that you want to probably keep at arm's length. So I would suggest the resident director if it's a campus thing. There's the wellness center is well equipped for handling the kinds of issues that come up with college students and unusual issues as well. So I would really encourage them to use those resources rather than try to solve the problem yourself. So good luck. I hope you enjoy yourselves in this program. I'm really grateful for your willingness to serve as a mentor, and I hope it goes well for you. Please contact me if you have any questions or concerns, and otherwise, enjoy the semester.